Greetings, this is the Questing GM for RPGADay Day 4, and the topic for today is vision. So I guess this is one of those, we are starting to see some clashes of topics that I will not be anticipating for the rest of the RPGADay month. But vision. Vision is something I ties very, very deeply with my motivations for role-playing games as well as beginning role-playing games. Every time when I read a new system, or I hear about a new system, or I'm reading or watching a fictional property, or maybe even non-fictional in some cases, and when I have that spark of this could be an RPG, I want to play this in an RPG format, it always comes with a vision. It always comes with a vision of how I envision this would look like in a role-playing game, and what are the moving pieces that I can gamify, what are the gamifications that I can do within this particular property or franchise or genre. I always get giddy when I start looking for the pieces. I try to uncover the pieces of the puzzle to put together, and when I have that puzzle all figured out, then that's I found the game that I want to play or I want to run. So vision is actually very something that happens to me very, very frequently, and I have a constant feed of inspirations that can come from really random places and all over the places, but most typically media, when it comes to role-playing games, and my vision for role-playing games. Sometimes my vision doesn't even have to come from from trying to emulate a certain piece of property. It can sometimes even come from what I want to do as a game master, and that's part of the reason why I started this channel, to just witness my growth, or at least record or document my growth as a game master. And that's being part of the vision of where at this point maybe where I want to be at a certain point, as a game master and as a role player in general. Vision is definitely a very huge step, or a very huge step in the part of the beginning of why I get into new systems, new games, sometimes even new groups. I have a vision of starting a group of role players, in this part of the country, or in this part of the world at least, that are more interested in learning new role playing systems, rather than having to go through that part of the journey alone, or without any support for experimentation. And that's more like a communal vision, so to speak. So I guess visions are really a very big driver. At least I wouldn't call them motivations. I would call them reasons why I do things, maybe, perhaps. Sometimes I get too immersed in trying to find the vision that it can be derailing, or it can lead you into a deadly dead end. And this is something that I have experienced sometimes. I have campaigns that I wanted to run when I was much younger, and I had a grand vision of how it will all be. And until today, I have not run a single session of that particular campaign that I wanted to run, because the vision was too grand. The vision was too I had developed the vision too far ahead that fits into the mold of role-playing games. It might have worked as a novel, it might have worked as a gaming property, but that's not exactly something that I want to continue developing on, because it eventually comes into, as to put it bluntly, it's a waste of time. I guess if that's really what I'm trying to say, is that while visions are very, very intoxicating, it can be also very, very dangerous if you don't really check your vision, so to speak. But I think, being a bit of a romanticist, I think I'm not keen on warning people about having visions of their games, and because that can drive you towards a certain goal of doing something. If your vision is to always run a good game for your group of players, I mean, that's not a bad vision to have. And I don't think I personally can really fault someone for having a flawed vision, because at least if they have a vision, and they will be making an effort to go towards that vision. So even if it's flawed, it's still their vision, that you still have to respect them for it. And if they are even putting the time and effort for it, all the more power to them. Because I can personally speak of having a vision and either being disappointed by reality, which is sometimes quite happens quite often, or just the joy of having a vision is something that I can relate to. I guess this is one outlet that role-playing games have, is the allowance to have a vision. There's a certain joy in the self-creation of a vision that is different from the joy of being able to roll dice and play with games. And even when you are on the table, when you're playing, there is still that happy place of envisioning where you are, that is described through words, through body language, through gestures, through imagined space. And that's a very special power of role-playing games, the power of vision. So I guess this will be all for day 4 of RPG A Day 2020.